I'm Jeff Turcott, and this is my wife,
Kelly Kurtz.
I say that because twice these past 2 weeks, someone said, "Oh, your husband and wife. Oh, I get that now." So this is my wife, Kelly.
This is my husband, Jeff.
And we're here. Our business is Simply Well Seniors. Our tagline is helping seniors navigate the journey to the next place they call home. Even if that home is the home you're in now, maybe navigating that, a little bit of that journey. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. So here we are in Leominster at United Methodist Church. It's a fabulous room. We're so happy to be here. We have room to grow. So we invite you to invite your friends next time. So aging in place with confidence, your plan B for the future. So that's assuming that you have a plan A, which is staying right where you are and everything's going to be fine. That's the plan. But if that plan doesn't work out, we're talking about what the plan B is. To tell you a little bit about us, if you don't already know. So our business, Simply Well Seniors, really has three aspects to it. Simply Well, Simply Organized, Simply Well Seniors, and Simply Well Move Solutions. What we've been seeing over the past couple of years is that there was a problem that needed solving. So folks that have been living in their homes for a number of years, 30, 40, sometimes 50, maybe even 60 years, knowing that maybe the house isn't going to be working for them any longer in the future. Maybe not the near future, but maybe in the next couple of years. Where do they even start? Who do they even call? What kind of services do they even need? So we were coming in oftentimes getting a call from a realtor saying, "I have so-and-so's house listed, and now they have to get everything out. Can you help us?" Well, that phone call probably should have happened 6 months before they listed the house. But so we've been helping people and meeting them where they are. Sometimes it's a long road. Sometimes it's a year before they plan on moving. Sometimes there was an event and now they have to move, so it might be a 3-month window. Sometimes it's people that have planned very, very well, and we're just helping them put the pieces in place. So Simply Well, Simply Organized, we help with downsizing and decluttering, organizing, removal of donations. We go to Salvation Army quite a bit. You see Kelly's car there quite a bit. Also consignment. And then when we get into the project management of preparing a home for sale, and we coordinate vendors. Potentially there might be an estate liquidation, might be some junk removal, there might be some interior or exterior repairs needed. We also have a division, Simply Well Seniors Move Solutions. Kelly is a certified senior move manager and can help folks move into either, whether it's assisted living, independent living, into a condo, a smaller house, whatever have you.
We help with we work with professional movers, but we help with the packing, sorting, and floor planning of what items you're going to take from your current home to your new home, and help set that all up so it's all done in one day. Essentially, when you move, you leave your old house, go out to lunch, do something with your friends or family, come to your new house, and everything's put in its place. Your bed's made, your linen closets are filled, your clothes are back in your closet or your drawers, kitchen set up, everything. So we have a team that comes in and helps with that, but it's a really nice way to make sure that you can get moved in without unpacking for months and tripping over boxes and all of that. So that's been a really nice addition to our services in the last couple of years.
Yeah, so rather than relying on your adult children or your grandchildren or tripping over boxes like Kelly said forever, it's just done in one day. And then at the very end of all that, the sale of the real estate. We have 2 on the market right now. We just listed one this morning, and we already have a call for a showing this afternoon.
Yeah.
So it's quick.
But it was a 5-month process for the family to get out. Again, they lived there for 40 years. So we're doing those things for a lot of folks. Got the house cleaned out, painted, staged, decluttered, all of that. So it's a fun process, and it's rewarding for the families at the end that we're able to handle all the stuff for them.
Right. And they're in a warm place right now.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Shovel the driveway one more time. Yeah. You're welcome.
And we also shovel and snow blow when needed. So we've done that 5 times so far since they've been gone. We're earning our commissions.
That's right. Absolutely. So today, like we said, we're talking about having a plan B. So just a few slides before we bring up our guest. So understanding the importance of the plan B. What someone that I know says, she says, "Oh, what if happens?" You have a plan, but then what if? Well, the what if is going to happen down the road usually. we're talking about life and uncertainties. When you have your plan and you're feeling well and everything's good right now, sometimes
Sometimes
uncertain
you're
comes
limited
up.
by health and mobility. Something sudden can happen or something gradual. But when that happens and you have any declining health or mobility issues, what does your current living situation look like that could maybe accommodate what if could happen, and keeping that in mind.
And some of the other potential challenges or setbacks might be home safety. Maybe your home lacks some accessibility and mobility because of the way it's set up. Maybe
Mostly stairs, bathrooms, those kinds of things. If you have upstairs everything and now you can't do the stairs for whatever reason, if it's a week or 2 weeks, you can maybe manage downstairs on a hospital bed or a couch. But if it's much longer than that and you don't have a working shower on the first floor, it's only a toilet, then sometimes that can be more of a challenge for moving forward long term.
There could be some setbacks, financial or legal. Folks on fixed income, we know there's rising costs. How much are eggs now? $9 a dozen? I don't know. I don't do the grocery
Organic
shopping.
ones are, I know that, not a lot.
But also, we're talking about social and emotional. We talked about that last time as well when we were here talking about food. Food brings people together, if you remember that. So when you're in your home and you either lose the ability to go out as often, or the friends that you were having social times with might not be going out as well. So that plays a toll on folks. And also caregiving and support. Depending on where you live, there might be limited caregiving availability or emergency. You have to be prepared better for an emergency.
We had a lady recently who lives in Groton, and she was saying that she needs some home care, and there are very few home care agencies that would go to her part of Groton, which was surprising to me, but mostly because the Neshoba Valley Hospital closed and not as much health care in that area. But she was really struggling to find home health aides that could come to her to service her. So that's something to think about where you live rurally, or what kind of agencies are available. There are lots of agencies that will travel, but in her case, she was really struggling to find somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the benefits of having this backup plan. If you have a backup plan, you potentially are going to be reducing some stress and anxiety. Knowing that you have the backup plan will give you peace of mind. We preach this a lot. Be prepared. Have a plan. Put it together. Tell others about it, about what your plan is, and work it out.
Even if you never need it, at least if you have it, it does add a lot of peace of mind to you, and it lets your family and loved ones kind of know the backup plan. If something were to happen, you're unable to communicate the plan at that time for whatever reason, someone's already been told the plan, so they can help step in and act in your best interest.
Mm-hmm. Having a backup plan, it prepares you for setbacks, because setbacks happen. Things, even if you have the plan, something else could come in the way, but allows you to recover quicker, when those setbacks happen, and improve decision-making skills. Kelly coined this phrase a couple of seminars ago. She said, "If you delay, choices get taken away," and it's so true. That how many times is a rushed decision the best decision? Not always. A well-planned out decision is usually a better decision. So having options always allows for more thoughtfulness, strategic choices rather than a rushed decision. So creating this realistic plan B. A couple of steps here. So first, it's assessing your current situation. This is a traditional SWOT analysis for those who are in business: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So identifying those strengths and weaknesses and the other opportunities, identifying what's going well, where you are now, and how things are going. Identify what could change, what you could improve upon potentially, and where are the opportunities there. And setting realistic goals and giving yourself grace. You don't need to beat yourself up about it. Take the time to go through this. Then brainstorming those alternative options, exploring different paths and possibilities. Maybe it's something you didn't think about, and maybe when you're talking with others and other professionals, they might have a different idea of what the other possibilities are. And then developing the contingency plan. Anticipate that there's going to be obstacles. Anticipate that there's going to be things to overcome in the future. And again, give yourself some grace and being able to work through those. But all along, building a support network. Maybe it's family, maybe it's friends, maybe it's other professionals, maybe it's other agencies, to bring around yourself so you can get familiar with them before you need them.
Right, and one of the some of the training that Jeff and I have been through in the last couple of years as certified senior housing professionals, we have a really vast knowledge of different communities and people in the community that can help provide services. So even though we are real estate agents, our focus isn't always, it hardly really is trying to sell or buy you a home. It's trying to give you the best options that you have so you can make the best decisions. So you can always start with a phone call to us if you're looking for somebody that you need services for. We may know a person. We're connected with a lot of people in our network, so we might be able to just refer you to another person that could assist you. So don't hesitate to reach out to us if you think of something that you don't know where to start. We might be able to help you.
We're like your Italian cousin Vinny. We know a guy. Emotional well-being and resilience. Coping with the disappointment and setbacks, as I said before, give yourself some grace. There's going to be setbacks, and you're going to learn from mistakes and failures, and maybe you'll learn from other folks that you're observing that you're saying, that didn't go so well for them. Maybe I won't try that, or kind of thinking it through before you get too far down the road. Building resilience, having a positive mindset, really helps in this process as well. That it can be a sad time when you're in your home for a very long time and it's not working as well for you any longer. But having a positive mindset about what's in the future is always helpful. And then cultivating those strong relationships, like we said, surround yourself with folks that will help develop that positive mindset and that give you the encouragement to do the right thing. And then obviously stress management techniques, mindfulness and meditation. We had Anita Yoga a few months ago that was here with us. And that was amazing,
was great.
Actually. And keep up your healthy lifestyle habits, like we talked about last month, about eating healthy and nutritious. So, okay, here we go. I should have had walk-up songs.
You should have had walk-up.
I didn't this
All right,
month.
so we're first going to introduce Michelle Morin, the one and only. She has been a great resource for us and a great connector. Michelle is the Director of Marketing and Business Development at Lutheran Rehab in Worcester, and she's responsible for raising brand awareness and increasing census by showcasing their mission-driven work. They have a caring staff, unique services, and professional partners, elder care providers, and the senior population of Worcester County. Michelle is responsible for all aspects of business development. She's a goal-oriented person, and she gets things done. So welcome, Michelle Morin. Yeah, awesome.
So next we have Bonnie Reynolds.
All right, come on down, Bonnie Reynolds. Bonnie is a master's in RN, and she has an extensive background in home and community-based health services, helping elders in their own homes and other community settings. Bonnie was raised in Central Mass and got her start in healthcare back in high school, working as a nurse's aide in a nursing home. After college, she began a visiting nurse and worked in a bunch of community settings, ranging from skilled home healthcare, hospice, and the PACE program, which is a program all-inclusive elderly care for the elderly, which is a Summit Elder Care program that we talked about in one of our past seminars. Bonnie founded her own care management practice called Beech Tree Care Management in 2018. She's a care manager certified and is an advanced professional member of the Aging Life Care Association. She and her husband John live in Lunenburg, where they raise 2 sons. Her faith and love of family, dear friends, are the wind beneath her wings. Please welcome Bonnie.
And we have a fantastic duo.
Identical twins.
Listen, he's 4 years old. That's a lie. I take offense to that.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Art and Scott Aponte of Brothers Remodeling. They are the founders of Brothers Remodeling, a design and build company in Gardner, Massachusetts, with over 50 years of combined experience. They specialize in interior and exterior renovation, including kitchens, bathrooms, additions, and decks. They are known for their craftsmanship and client-focused approach. They have a strong reputation in the community, and they are our good friends,
Yes.
Scott and Art.
Hey, welcome, everyone. Thank you. Awesome. So I guess we'll start with Brothers Remodeling, and either Art or Squatter, you can both chime in. So what are the most common home modifications you see with seniors and helping them age in place safe and comfortably?
Well, what I found in doing this, it's the big thing is making if they have a two-story home, is making the first level all, a full service, meaning bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, everything's on the first floor. First floor living. That is probably one of the biggest things that we see. And then some of the other things would be like stairs. If people are having a hard time getting up the stairs, we would make the risers shorter so they're not as tall. Ramps, installing ramps, widen doorways. Now that is probably one of the biggest things is these older homes, it's not as easy to do because you might have structural issues or cabinets in the way. I don't know. I mean, when they built the houses in the early 1900s, the doorways were tiny, and to try to widen them can be quite complicated. Sure. And then the kitchen, easy reach. Trying to lower everything so it's not as difficult. Any of the cabinets can have pull out. Thank you, Art. Pull out drawers to make it easy to access everything, and then certain outlets can be placed in different areas to just make your house a little more accommodating to you as you get older.
Great.
Okay, so that cabinet that's above the refrigerator that has the wine glasses way in the back.
Keep them on the counter.
Get rid of that. Yeah, getting rid of that for sure.
Okay, that's great. Those are all good suggestions. And then
Talk to Bonnie for a minute about, so what are some of the key services that a care manager can provide a senior that wishes to age in place?
Every situation, every individual, a family, everything is unique, really. There are common themes, but we really do personalize our work with elders and their families. And we do start with what we call a comprehensive assessment. And, that is getting to know the person, the social, history, their family, even their education, their interests. And we also, of course, look at health, current health conditions, chronic health conditions, and for looking for issues that present future challenges with aging. So if someone maybe was just diagnosed with Parkinson's or, various things. So, we do all that. I'm a nurse. I look at medications and allergies and that kind of thing. There's more, but in the big picture, we look at the reason for the referral. What are the goals that the individual or the family has? And so we have that in mind as we're doing our assessment. So we definitely look at the home situation. We do a home visit. We look at the layout, all of that in context, looking at the medical and functional needs of the individual. So Kelly's an OT, and so I'm sure she could list out lots of areas of potential disability or limitation. Walking, transferring, there's many, and even assistance with other types of things, bill paying, getting food, safety awareness, et cetera. We look at all of that. We look at cognitive status as well. And we also take on a piece that doesn't typically happen if somebody goes to the hospital and there's a case manager assigned for a short period of time to help figure out the next step. So we are able to be involved over time a little bit, and we try to get the big picture. And part of that is what are the financial resources, which many in the older generations are very reluctant to share, and their families often don't know their financial situation. And then we look at the legal piece, which is, have you met with an elder law attorney? Do you have legal decision-making documents in place? That kind of thing. Back to financial, we do look at resources, because we're going to be making recommendations, and we look for what are the resources for possible recommendations and pathways to the goal.
Great.
Great.
All right.
That's really all encompassing.
It is.
There's a lot
It's
there.
kind of like a one-stop shop. They'll get a lot of services from you.
And we don't do it alone. We do not provide direct care. I am a nurse. I do assessment. But we do refer out. So
Great.
definitely right here next door.
That's great.
Happened a couple weeks ago. So,
So that's awesome.
And over here as well.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that, as what Bonnie's saying, and also in your Plan B, should an event or an accident happen and you have a fall or you end up with pneumonia or something that really makes you weak and you end up in rehab for a short stay before you go back home, we're trying to get people to start thinking about, if you need to go to rehab for a short time, where might you want to go? Now, it always depends on when there's a bed available at the time that you're in the hospital or your doctor recommends it. But we wanted to refer this question to Michelle in terms of maybe what's the most single important, what questions should seniors ask when thinking about going to a rehab? What should they be looking for if they're in the hospital and the nurse or doctor says, we want you to go to rehab for 2 weeks to get stronger?
Sure. So I think the key word there is choosing a rehab facility. I think it's important for everyone here to know that you have a choice. Patients can choose. You can choose who your doctor is. You can choose who your nursing home is. You can choose your short-term rehab. These are your choices, but you need to make an informed decision. And you do that, again, by planning. Going into a short-term rehabilitation facility is usually reactive. No one says, hey, next month I think I want to go to short-term rehab. Usually, as Kelly had mentioned, an incident happens. You fall, you get pneumonia, you break your hip. And you have to make decisions pretty quickly. The way you can make effective and informed decisions is, as Kelly had mentioned, look ahead. And of course, we all know to go to CMS, the Centers for Medicaid Services, CMS.com, and we have a star rating for facilities. 1 through 5, 5 being the best. Of course, we are at Lutheran Rehab Skilled Care Center in Worcester, Massachusetts, a 5-star building. But you also want to, get some information from your friends. If you are socializing or you're at a senior center, a personal recommendation goes a long, long way. Things you want to look for. You want to look for survey results from the state, deficiency-free. You want to look at their past history. You want to look at their star rating. You want to look at social media. But most important, you want to get information from your friends, families, and people that you know have had personal experiences there. Usually when you go, your PCP, your primary care provider, will be involved in your care. They will also make recommendations. When you're in short-term rehab, the goal is to get you home, or at least back to baseline. And if for some reason you can't go home, you need to have that plan in place also. Art and his brother, for instance, you might look at your house now and say, I'm not going to need this for a really long time, but it's good to establish a relationship with them so that when you do need them, really quickly in an emergency situation while you're laying in a hospital and okay, I can't go home the way my home is now, who am I going to call? You already have that relationship with Art. If you don't know where you're going to get your home care services or, oh gosh, who's going to pay my bills and do that and the other thing, you already have an established relationship with Bonnie. So I guess the short answer to my question is, what can you do to choose, what steps you need to take? You need to be really proactive and not reactive, and think of the what ifs, because the what if will happen. It's kind of like life is a journey, right? It's like planning a vacation. You don't just walk into an airport with your suitcase and go, I'm here, now what? You look into, where am I going? What am I going to do when I get there? How much is it going to cost me? How long am I going to stay there? Am I going to go home? These are all the things that you think about when you go into any type of facility also. So that would be my
that's
suggestion.
great.
Great, thank you. Back to Art and Scott. So Michelle talked about having a priority of home modifications, that kind of thing, and looking at what it is. If you did have a stint in rehab, what is it that you're gonna have to change when you come home? So can you give us, what should a senior prioritize in the modifications based on their individual needs, and if they have a budget as well?
Sure. Yeah, I'll answer that question. But I was thinking about what you said when you go into the airport. What do? I just ask my wife. I don't know where I'm going half the time. I just pack my bag, and wherever we go, we go. When do we go home? So remodeling these days, as some of you probably know, is very expensive. Almost no matter what you do. One of the things is, and I like what you were saying, aligning yourself with companies ahead of time. Bonnie gave me a phone call of a client of hers that needed just handrails put on. And our company does everything small to large. And something like that, we're sensitive to what's going on in the home, and we'll respond right away and get out there real quick and get those things installed because we know it's a safety issue. We had someone call us because of their husband was in the hospital and he was coming home and the shower wasn't adequate. So we had to quickly take off handrails and take down the shower doors, which were a tripping hazard, and things like that. But when you're starting to think about your home and the way it's set up, and if you're going to age in place in your home, you're going to want to think about your doorways and prioritizing your budget with what you think you want to do. I know there's other companies out there that are like ours. We go out and we do free estimates and give our opinion and suggestions on what would be best in your home. And we give costs for those things based on, what you're looking to do and what might work out best, and not just think you can do it all sometimes. So budget's important, and prioritizing, what are the things I need to do first? Are you thinking up the road, you may need a wheelchair or get around that way. So we look at doorways, getting into the shower. We've installed a lot of walk-in showers. And what I mean by that, there's no threshold. The whole basement the whole bathroom is a wet bathroom. So you basically, there's no door on the shower. Well, we widen the doorway. You can just go in. There is a door on the shower, on the bathroom, of course. But basically everything can get wet. And the drain in the floor flows to the drain, things like that. So it's really, again, what I'm hearing from a lot of people in this room up here is that it's based on the individual needs, but it is great to have someone come in, assess the home, and see what the most important things are, and then talk about the budget for those items.
Great.
That's great. All good points.
Appreciate that.
I guess it's back to Bonnie, and you talked a little bit about this already with your first answer, but how can you as a care manager help seniors navigate the complex healthcare system? So as they have to access the necessary resources. So if someone's in the hospital, for example, and they're getting ready to come home and they need services, would they contact you at that time to work in conjunction with a care manager at the hospital?
It would be very helpful if we already knew the individual,
had the relationship,
their home situation, and had some type of relationship.
Sure.
Because we'll be much more effective that way. But, everyone's situation is different. Do they have family who can attest to their prior baseline? When you're in the hospital and you're about to be discharged, if you fail rehab, right, and you're not even a candidate to go to short-term rehab, and there's nobody there to advocate for rehab regardless, to get you back to your prior level of functioning or close to, that's a really troubling scenario, because very possibly you could end up long-term care in a nursing home. So it's unique to every situation's a bit different, but we would get in there, and I say I have a colleague, Mary Culhane, but I'll speak for myself. I would get in and I'd try to have updated information, make sure there are releases signed, so the healthcare professionals can talk with me, and just put it all together. I've done a lot of work in my past that allows me to pull things together and quickly have a kind of a handle on the situation and likely best path forward. There's a lot of advocacy involved. Even the fact that you can think you're admitted to the hospital, you'll go to the ER, you'll be there for some period of time, but you might not meet the 3-night overnight requirement for traditional Medicare for coverage in a short-term rehab. So there needs to be early advocacy to say, look, you're keeping somebody on observation day to day here, but this is concerning, and you know, a push to have the hospital admit so that the criteria are met. For instance, if there is a PT eval that's going to occur in the hospital, it's hard to gauge when they're going to walk through the door. But if I were there and knew the individual, I would know their baseline to know, well, is she awake and alert? Did she just have a poor night and she can't even participate today? She's exhausted. She's a little confused when she wakes up. That can happen in the hospital. With elders especially, is confusion, delirium, that kind of thing. Especially if there's a fall with injury and there's anesthesia and operation, you know, surgery and that kind of thing. So you just want to, you definitely want to have somebody who knows your baseline. And we could do this with family. If family is involved, we can do coaching and guidance to family members.
So that kind of leads into another question for Michelle about how can families prepare themselves for potential short-term stay in rehab. It sounds like a lot of education is out there.
Yeah, so here's some education for you, and you're probably not going to like what I have to say.
Uh-oh.
When you're in a hospital and you've suffered an event, an injury, an illness, and it's time to discharge you, the hospital wants to discharge you. They want that bed. When it's time for you to go, it's time for you to go. Patient choice, of course you have a choice. But if you're laying in a bed and you're not educated enough to know to advocate for yourself, you're going to go wherever they tell you you're going to go. They're going to walk in. What's your name? Rita. They're going to go in and they're going to go, Rita, we have a bed for you at Life Care of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where you're going. And that's where you're going. And if you don't know that you can speak up and you don't know that you can speak up, then you're going to end up somewhere that you don't want to be. Hospitals, they take excellent care of you, but they can only get you so far. Short-term rehab is the bridge between leaving the hospital and going home or going back to your baseline. You need to choose that facility very carefully. If you have a respiratory issue, you want to make sure that you're going to a facility that is known for their respiratory program. If you have a cardiac issue, you want to go somewhere where they have a cardiac program. My colleague here is from St. Francis. They have a dialysis den there. If you don't know all this in advance and know that it's local to you, to your family, and that you are familiar with their reputation, you're just going to end up where they put you. So advocacy and education is key. And I know it's hard to stand up for yourself when you're laying in a hospital bed and you're sick and you don't feel good and you have an IV and all you want to do is go home, but you need to go, you need that place to go in between. I get it. It's hard for you to speak up for yourself, and it is a confusing system. So in other words, what Bonnie just said was confusing. If you don't have a 3-midnight stay, you can't access your Medicare benefits, but you can access your Medicare B benefits, and you can get physical therapy at home with services. These aren't things they tell you in the hospital. What they tell you is, Rita, it's time for you to go home, and this is where you're going. That's why it's important to have a relationship with Art. So when they say, listen, you need to go to rehab because your home isn't safe, you can say, well, what's not safe about it? Is it something I can fix so that I can shorten my stay at a rehab and go home? If they tell you, you can't go home right now because you need X, Y, Z, then you can say, I need to call my care manager. Can I call my care manager and ask for her advice? We love to have you in short-term rehab. We take pride in taking care of you. We want you to stay because we want you, the longer you stay, the better you're going to be and the better our outcomes are. When you go home and you've got a pep to your step and you're back to where you were, that makes us look good. We're going to spend every single moment we can making you the best that you can be before you go home or back to your baseline. The hospital just needs to get you just to the point where you need to discharge. And that's not a warm and fuzzy thing to say. It's the truth. And a lot of people end up going where they don't want to go or getting services they do or don't need because they don't know to advocate for themselves. So the short answer is really, again, back to my previous answer, you need to educate yourselves on where you want to go, what you need, and who your relationships are already established with. And my suggestion to that, by the way, can I have one more second?
Absolutely.
1 more minute? Think about the what if, because the what if doesn't happen. What if I can't go home? Maybe you need to go to assisted living. My colleague Patty Peterson is here. Tour an assisted living right now. When you visit someone that you know is in an assisted living or a nursing home, walk up to the front desk and say, hey, after I'm done visiting Kelly, can I get a tour of this facility? Take a tour of that facility. Ask whatever questions you want. If you really like it, ask them, can I be put on a wait list? Mm-hmm. That's super key. There's not a lot of long-term care beds out there. Mm-hmm. If you know you're going to need nursing home care, ask to be on a wait list. If you really like the facility that Patty has shown you, ask her, can I have an application so I can fill this out? Mm-hmm. That makes the process that much quicker, and it opens up many more options when it comes time for you to leave your hospital bed and make the decision between home, short-term rehab, assisted living, or something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you're on a waiting list somewhere, they call you and say, we have a bed available. You can say, okay, thank you, I'm not ready yet. Please put me back on the list and pass it to someone else. But at least you're on that rotation as opposed to, okay, now I'm going to get my name on a list and find out that it's 6 months or a year or longer to get on. So it's always good to prepare ahead. And this is a lot of information. So if you get home and something happens, if you remember our name or you take one of our pens with our phone number, call us. What was the care manager's name? I need to call her. We want you to set up the relationships, but make a call to us at least, so we can connect you with these folks. If you get home and you get busy and you meant to do it, but you never set up the relationships, we'll get you connected. But they're all saying great things to be prepared ahead of time.
Oh, my wife, she knows everything.
Yes.
No, but I think I speak for everyone on the panel and for some of my colleagues in this room. We're in this business for a reason. We want to help people. Mm-hmm. And if we can't help you, we are a resource to be able to find somebody that can. Yep. So feel free to reach out.
Right. Kelly and I were just meeting with some other folks at another community, and we were talking about the relationships that we have with others and folks here on the panel and others as well, that if you come into and you have a need and you come into this group through Michelle or through Bonnie or through Patty, that every one of us have a resource. And we know, like I said, the cousin Vinny, I know a guy. We all know where to turn because we built this community as well. So it's really great. I got goosebumps with this panel here. You guys are fantastic. This is really good information. The question I had for Scott and for Art, and we talked about this, most recently, is about multi-generational living and how that can help. We do see that in real estate that is two households. Someone is going to either they're going to sell both and they're going to look for a place that they can, a parent and children and their family can live together, and that there's still some privacy that wants to be had within that. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes, we have extensive knowledge in this because we do that quite a bit. Basements, turning a basement into an in-law suite for parents. Right now, it's the most expensive time in this nation's history for purchasing new or renovating a home. Mm-hmm. Prices have never been as high, and they're not going to fall. Mm. COVID was a big shock to everybody, and nothing went down. Mm-hmm. And they just stayed the same. And values, unlike 07, 08, that were inflated, unrealistic inflated values, are not there. The values are there, and they're going to stay there, and they're just going to keep increasing. So it's hard for the younger generation to buy a home today. Mm-hmm. And now they're trying to pool their resources with a parent, and not necessarily that the parent needs any help. They both need help financially to find a place. One question that we always ask when we sit with our potential client is, how long do you plan on being in the house? Mm-hmm. And we see this all the time. People, if they love their neighborhood, if they like their house, they want to try to stay there if they can. There's a sentimental value there, and also the peace of mind of being there for 30 years, and the neighbors, and So what we try to do is find out what can be done by the town. Mm-hmm. There are certain restrictions that the towns allow you to do or don't allow you to do, especially septic. Mm-hmm. Septic is one big one, but in some towns they'll let you have a deed restriction meaning that as long as you own the house with your family that's going to occupy either the addition or the basement, they won't make you put in a new septic or upgrade your septic. They'll wait until you sell it, which is a $40,000 fee in most cases. So that's great, but it's knowing that and understanding and finding the, finding out as much as you can find out for that homeowner. And, my mom lived with me for 3 years. She had dementia. And that was the toughest thing for my wife and I to go through it. If she would have had her own space, it would have been great. My mother-in-law, actually, we bought their property. They had a smaller house. Now, what I did is I made that single-floor living for her. We put on an addition, and we put her bedroom on the first floor, and her last breath was taken in that bedroom. And what happens if you plan, this all comes down to planning and everything that we're talking about, plan for the future, your home typically will not lose value with whatever renovation that you do, if it's done properly. But it usually won't lose any value. Family members, friends, you do need assistance, and it's going to depend on if you don't have any family, then having, again, a team that can help you, assess what needs to be done, how much is that going to cost, and there are a lot of different programs that are out there, but we're seeing the multi-generational happening more than before, just because of where pricing is at. Okay. And it doesn't have to be in the basement. Now the accessory dwelling units, ADUs, are very big, and the towns are allowing them before when they wouldn't because of the housing industry right now. So it's a lot to take in, but for our company, we're considered a design build. So we take it from the idea stage, the concept, right straight through to whatever is going to be done, whether it's putting in 2 windows or building a house, which we've done. So
yeah. I'm glad you brought up the ADUs. Last fall when the governor signed that into law, that the towns are trying to just figure it out. Actually,
yes, that's correct.
From what I understood, that they're waiting for some kind of direction that's going to be coming by end of this month, by end of February, about additional sewer lines and water lines and what can be allowed on a property, but that's a whole new.
It really is, and the biggest challenge is if there's a septic. That's the biggest challenge of them all.
Yep.
And now it's not just bedrooms. They're really starting to enforce the size of the house and the size of the rooms, and so we have to be on our game because most towns don't. They operate on their own laws.
Right.
We can't go from Leominster to Fitchburg. They're completely different, and they enforce things differently. So us knowing what we're doing will help not waste the time of the potential client.
Sure.
Are people familiar with what the accessory dwelling units are? Have people heard of those? They're, just a little more about them. We first heard about them years ago. California was really big in the market for them, and they were called granny pods, and they're almost like little tiny houses on properties of people who had extra land, either out in back of their house or the side, or that's not necessarily attached, detached, but kind of like perfect little tiny houses. And so it's wonderful that Massachusetts is allowing it now because, as Scott's saying and Art's saying, that the housing market is so tight that it'd be nice to still have your own space if you have the land to be able to live on the same property as maybe your son or daughter or niece or nephew or something, and still have your own independence. So it's a really nice way to keep
and it's not
together.
regulated to family. You can actually rent them out.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just working with the town for Westminster, and there are special things that you can do. It only can be a certain square footage.
Yep.
But accessory dwelling unit has to be a separate living, meaning 2 forms of egress, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom.
Yep.
So things like that.
Right.
But
Yep.
there's a lot of detail out there.
Sure.
Great.
All right. I wasn't paying attention for the next question. Let's
sorry.
see.
You were enthralled by what
I
Scott
was just so good. I guess maybe back to Bonnie. We kind of combined some of the questions here. So I guess what are the most common challenges that seniors face when they're trying to stay in their homes? Are you finding anything that's really the biggest roadblock? I know it individually probably based on everyone's specific circumstance. But are there any?
Well,
key
I
ones?
think there's a similar question on the next page about, I don't know, the biggest. I'm going to look for it. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
It's it. Yeah. Single most important piece of advice
Yes.
you would
Yeah,
give.
sure.
Yes.
Let's do that one.
And so and then I'll circle back.
Okay.
And it's already been said. You
Yeah.
said it. Art said it. I think it's an accessible bathroom. An accessible bathroom. You can do short-term rehab when you're discharged. Have assistance getting into the house and have rehab come to you. Could be stairs, all that, but you may be able to pull it off. But it's really important to have an accessible bathroom that would fit in durable medical equipment. So if you just think, as far as the challenges that seniors face, think of what we do to take care of ourselves. Basically, all those needs. There's functional, can you walk? Can you transfer? Can you bathe? Can you, can you prepare a meal? And there's just so many. Do you have access to food? Do you have access to transportation anymore? Because you may need someone, you might be able to prepare a simple meal or whatever, but you might not have access to go grocery shopping. You might not be able to drive anymore. If we just think of what do we each need to be able to care for ourselves, and then what if something happens that you can't do that. So that's for, staying in your home, and the accessibility is important. At some point, you have to be able to get in and out. So is the house rampable if you are having difficulty with stairs or are in a wheelchair, those kinds of things. And so.
Yeah, I would say agree with you on the shower piece. That when I was an occupational therapist working in short-term rehab, the patients I had were always so happy the day that I was coming in to help them with their shower, because they always
Yes.
had to do a shower before they would get home. And everybody wants a shower. That's the one thing that you just feel like a human being when you can get in the shower. So that is such an important piece, even if it's using a transfer bench to sit on in the shower. Maybe you can't get into a bathtub anymore, but there's so many strategies. But if you don't even have access to doing that over a period of a few weeks or a month, and it's important to talk to Art and Scott if your house isn't set up to have that, because that is a really important piece. Sponge baths are okay, but they're not great. So I would really agree with that if you can make a bathroom
Right
work.
at the beginning of COVID, I think within the first few days of the shutdowns, our family experienced a house fire, and
That was awful. I know her personally. Yeah, that was, yeah.
it was we couldn't even. Oh gosh, yes. Anyway, that's a whole other chapter. But the point is, we did get through it, and we had wonderful support from family and friends. But kind of remotely. It was COVID; we couldn't be together, and we were fortunate to have a mobile home in the front yard. But it turned out to be, I was shocked, tear down and rebuild. It had to be on the same footprint because of lot size and that kind of thing. And it turned out, in a sense, new foundation, everything. And then I got input into the design, which was great. And the home was designed to be first floor with possible expansion like Cape style upstairs. And in the process of this, the full bath was a tub. And I said to my husband, this is crazy. We should have an accessible shower. So there were modifications made. We do have a small bathroom upstairs with a tub. Made a lot of modifications. And thankfully we did, because a couple of years later, my husband had major back surgery. He had a very tough recovery and had to go inpatient rehab, short-term rehab for a while. Came home with lots of medical equipment. And there he is, gets home, and he's got the shower chair, and we have the handheld shower and accessible shower. It's just a great testimony if you think about that. You never know when you're going to need it.
Yeah.
Right,
So-
absolutely.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so I think I'm going to ask the same question of Michelle here. What's the single most important piece of advice you can give folks? And I think you've touched on a lot of it. Is to
Sure.
be prepared, educate
First,
yourself.
don't be afraid of everything I said. First of all, I like to lay it on. I like to lay it on the line because I do think everyone needs to be prepared.
They
What's-
won't really send you to Pittsburgh, by the
No,
way.
they won't send you to Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, maybe. but not
Pittsburgh, not Pittsburgh. Again, my advice: be prepared and embrace your vulnerability. If you think that you need someone to come look at your home, don't put off your appointment with Art because you think your house is a mess. They've seen,
Never says, shouldn't say your no says your name.
I don't know who built Bonnie's house. We never even got a chance.
Well, so I have to say this. Okay. So we didn't know they built houses at the time. So that
So the
was,
next one. then
yeah,
they'll-
brothers brothers remodeling, right? But we did refer someone who's had a house fire and rebuilt. Okay, all right. Yes, that was me.
Total remodel.
So plan. If you know you're going to have hip surgery or knee surgery, or you know you're going into short-term rehab, make a plan. Make the plan for going home. But also don't forget things that need to be done while you're in rehab. Who's going to feed my cat? Who's going to check my mail? Little things like that. But while you're in rehab or even in the hospital, embrace your vulnerability. If you don't know how you're going to get, maybe you're a solo ager, maybe your kids don't live near you. Don't be embarrassed or ashamed to say, I don't have anyone that can do grocery shopping for me. My house is a mess. I don't want anyone to go in and look at it right now. I don't have friends that can, check my mail or come in. There are resources throughout your community, at your senior center, through care managers, through the hospital can set you up with community resources. Don't be afraid. Aside from planning for short-term rehab, don't be afraid to voice your concerns and your needs. Don't wait for people to ask a question for you to give them an answer. If you have something that you feel needs to be addressed, that's the time to address it. Because when you go home from short-term rehab, it's not just about your physical recovery; it's an emotional recovery too. You've lost a little bit of your independence. You need to, when you go home, you need to be physically and emotionally ready to recover, and that comes sometimes with addressing issues that maybe you didn't think you were going to be addressing so soon, but you really need to do that. So my advice would be to plan, prepare, and make sure you ask questions and answer questions honestly when they ask them of you.
Excellent.
Yeah, just pairing off of that a little bit. Sometimes if you are going in for a procedure, your insurance company will allow for a visit from a physical therapist or an occupational therapist to come to your house before you have your surgery or your whatever's going on, so they can anticipate what things you might have trouble with when you return home from the hospital. So sometimes doing that preactive or preemptive visit with the therapist will help walk through with you and see how you do getting in and out of bed, how your bathroom looks, how your kitchen looks, make some recommendations of making some minor changes so that maybe someone, your family member, your spouse, or even you yourself can work on some of those things before you go into the hospital. So when you come home, even if it's after short-term rehab, some of those safety things have already been looked at and addressed. And it gives you time then to call Art or Scott to get some grab bars in, or to look at, okay, we want to do a bathroom renovation. It's not going to be possible schedule-wise to get it done before we come home, but you're on the calendar, and in the meantime, how could you modify your house enough to get home and then wait for the renovation to happen?
Your elder services too. There's the ASAP and Worcester Aging Services, and then, in Leominster, and then elder services.
Right.
They're a plethora of information. They can answer and refer based on, sometimes like who's going to shovel my driveway. Elder services have people that will go out and shovel your driveway and your walkway if you can't go out there after a storm. It amazes me that people put so much thought and effort into planning a vacation then when it comes time for your health, your well-being, and your recovery,
Right.
they really haven't given it much thought. There's a lot of little details that go into it, and you need to be comfortable to ask those questions, and you need to know who to ask. And if you don't know who to ask the first person you see, and they will refer you. I mean, really, we all will.
Yep, absolutely.
There's the issue of fear of decline, that kind of thing. It's very real. But we encourage everybody to just speak up, because there are people out there ready to help. And as far as Elder Services in Worcester, and perhaps Aging Services has a similar program, they have something called Options Counselors.
Yes, Aaron Pepka.
And they are amazing. I call them as a care manager sometimes to see, do you have a resource that would help in such and such a situation? So, yeah, they're great.
They are.
They're great.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
And they're free.
We'll try to put together a list of some of these resources, because I know it's a lot of information that we can have as an email or handout that we can send off to you folks from here today, just so you have some numbers, at least the names and contact of all the folks, and you can certainly collect their business cards and things at the end. But it is good to have, kind of like you have your magnet on the refrigerator or whatever with important numbers. It'd be good to just have your people, so that when you need to call someone, you're not trying to find, oh my gosh, where's their number? How am I going to find them?
Right.
Yep.
That question for Art and Scott, right before we sat down here, we were talking about, there's really not a really good resource out there to try and vet, contractors and folks, like you. You don't even pick up the yellow pages anymore. I mean,
Yeah, you don't even have a phone book.
you're right. So,
Yeah, a lot of times people are doing a Google search these days, and that's we get a lot of business from Google search. We try to gear our business towards those 5-star reviews where people are happy and things like that. But Scott says that we always do a presentation when we're doing a design for somebody. We do a 10-minute presentation, talks about the industry, not just about our company. But one of the things that Scott always says in his presentation is, this is the easiest business to get into, being a contractor, and the easiest business to get out of. And most businesses don't last more than 5 years, because all you need is a pickup truck and a set of tools, and you can say you're a remodeler. We're licensed and insured, so there are steps you can take to make sure that you're getting a qualified contractor to come into your home. Check. A lot of people, we tell people this all the time, even in our presentation: get referrals, call people, and a lot of people don't do it. They just, I don't know, for whatever reason. Well, the jobs that we get, a lot of people don't check the referrals, but there are some people that will. But making sure, in Massachusetts, you're a little more protected, because a contractor can't work on your home unless he has a license and unless he's insured. The building departments won't even let you get a permit. So that's one good thing, but make sure you do get a permit for the work in your house. And this assures you that whoever you're hiring will have insurance and the proper workers' comp and liability insurance to protect you being the homeowner. But if you hire somebody and they don't have that, you're taking a chance. And the next thing too is the quality of work you're going to get. It's not just enough to hire someone because they're cheaper. You want to make sure the work they're going to do is quality work. That's important, because any money you spend is a lot of money. $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. And if you're not getting what you expected, and a company that will back up what they've done, we've had clients call us back 2 or 3 years later and say, hey, this happened in my house. We guarantee our work for a year. But if it's even a little after that, we go back out, and if it's something that we thought we could have done better or it's our fault, we fix it. So you definitely want to get a company that's going to stand behind what they do, has a good reputation, and somebody who's not too small, so and maybe 5 or 7, 10 years from now, they'll still be around. That's important as well, because some of the smaller companies, they're not here for a long time, and their warranty is as good as them being in business for how long they are.
Right. No, it's a good point. It's that you need a pickup truck and a license, and no experience behind the license. When I walk through Home Depot, I walk through and I look at all the shelves and say, I have no business touching any of this. Although this place is open to the public.
And the building departments will only do what they're only going to inspect what code is. They may not know what the best quality is,
Right.
or the best materials.
Right.
Yeah.
The remodeling and construction industry is the second most complained about industry in this country. Auto repair and auto sales, that's number one. And it's been that way for over 30 years. So this industry still has not gotten it right. And a survey done by Qualified Remodeler, they did a survey of 700 homeowners. They did different projects on their homes. 48% of those people would not refer that contractor. And that's bad. There's no advocate out there that anybody can call and say, hey, how's Brothers Remodeling? You know, how are they with this or that? There's nothing out there like that. If we don't belong to the Better Business Bureau as a member, you're not getting any information on us.
Right.
So you have to be a detective. And to piggyback on what Michelle was saying, we find clients or potential clients put more time and effort into the consumer magazines, selecting a TV or selecting a car or whatever gadget, and they don't put enough effort into selecting a good contractor. One of the biggest investments you make in your life is your home. Wouldn't you want to have the best people working on it?
Yeah, and we have to say, in 2017, Jeff and I bought our house, and we did a full gut remodel, and Scott and Art did our job for us, and that's how we first met them. And we've been friends ever since, and they did fabulous work, and we can't speak highly enough about them. So, but there are things that we didn't ask you that you feel are important that you guys would like to speak on.
I do. I think when people go into the hospital or a short-term rehab, money is always a concern.
Yeah.
What's the difference between Medicare and Medicaid? What's the difference between managed Medicare and regular Medicare? What's a copay? Who's going to, these are things you need to know too. Really know your insurance benefits and know the services that you are entitled to prior to making decisions, because that can also impact you as well.
We are doing a Medicare seminar in August, I believe. It's on our website. I think it's August that we have a specialist coming in to talk about the differences about Medicare. So that is a good point.
It's
because
very confusing.
You don't want to find out that you're not covered when you've been there for 4 days already.
But again,
Yeah.
the vulnerability, it's okay to ask. I mean, it's okay to ask these questions. Who's going to pay for this? Am I covered for this? And believe me, a hospital or a nursing home doesn't want you to come in if we know you can't pay the bill.
Right.
But you still should know what your benefits are, and what you can expect from your insurance provider when it comes to your care.
Okay. How about you, Bonnie? Anything else that we didn't ask you that you'd like to talk about?
Michelle just brought it up.
All right.
Seriously, and it is expensive. Everything out there is expensive for private care, if you need private home health aides, that kind of thing. So it's important to look at your options, what's covered through insurance, et cetera. But how quickly can a skilled home health agency, for example, get out to the house? What will they really be able to provide? Those services are intermittent. And even that's true pretty much of hospice, except in very limited circumstances. So unfortunately, we don't have, we have Medicare, we have Medicaid, Mass Health for the very poor with assets of $2,000, or it's really, they have not upped that for, I think, decades. It's really hard to be in the middle. If you have, if you're fortunate to have really, considerable assets, you're going to be fine in, the elder years. But yes, middle-aged. Yeah, middle-aged people need to be thinking about this. But middle income, I should say, middle income, it's challenging. There are programs out there. I did want to touch on this. I think there was mention of Summit Elder Care. That one, instead of the standard Mass Health, as far as income-wise, they look at community Mass Health income levels, which is about 3 times as much as the standard, I think. There's just a lot. You can start down pathways, and you should, to see what you might be eligible for. That's part of our safety net, so to speak, in the state.
And one more thing, with regard to managed care would be your Fallon, your Blue Cross, United, and you see those commercials on TV where, you sign up with Fallon, you're going to get a free pair of eyeglasses, and you're also going to get, Band-Aids for life. But what they don't tell you is you're only going to get 4 days of short-term rehab recovery when you go into a short-term rehab. They're only going to pay for 4 days, and then after that, you're going to have a big copay. So when you're looking at those programs, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those programs at all. My mother is on a managed care program, but look past the Band-Aids and the eyeglasses and ask yourself what's really going to be important to you as you age and you're making your plan B.
And know that you have appeal rights. So that can slow down discharge. Hospital setting, for instance, I want to exercise my appeal rights. That first pass doesn't usually come back in the patient's favor. But if you have advocacy and you really feel it should be covered and somebody else is saying, why not go for it, you can go to second and third level appeal. At some point, you may be liable if it doesn't work out, but if you needed the care anyway and you had to private pay, it can be worth it.
Okay.
How about Art and Scott? Do you guys have some other points you wanted to bring up?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of great information here, and one of the things that I would say is if you are thinking of staying in your home, that's the first decision, right? If you are, and then you bring in a professional to understand what you want to do. Get some real numbers that are associated with what might help you live in your home longer, better. That would be my advice.
Yeah, and on top of that, I would just say, don't wait. Construction projects aren't next week you can get started. You have to have drawings, you have to submit for permit, you have to maybe order materials just to get something started. Just when people sign an agreement with us, it's a month before we can even think about starting just because of the process of it. So if you think that up the road, this is something that you might need to do to your home, I just say start early and plan early. You don't have to do anything now, but at least you'll know what those things are you want to do. You'll know what the costs are. And then when you think it's time to pull a trigger on something, you'll be ready for it.
Great.
Absolutely. And also, just if your home that you're in now may be too much work to do the renovation and to do these things, maybe rethink about, is this my forever home? Is there another option for you? Because that's always something to explore. But we know most people want to stay in the home that they're in now because it's the home they've been in and they want to make it work.
Ellie?
Go ahead.
I just want to say something dovetailing right on that. Aging in place. So you may think aging in place is your own home currently, but just expand it a little to be aging in the community, because you may find another setting in the community setting, assisted living, et cetera. And again, assisted living, by the way, there is really not, it's private pay chiefly. So rest home is different. Yep, rest home is different. And Lutheran happens to have one. And we do refer there, my colleague and I. It's a wonderful option.
There's a lot of great options.
Yes.
One question I have just for everybody before they leave for the audience is, what decisions or plans have you been putting off that you know you need to make? So just something to think about when you leave here today. What in my own life, my own home, my own situation, do I know down the road needs to be addressed, but I've just been kind of like losing weight. Oh, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to do this. What could you start today or tomorrow to make a little baby step forward to maybe consider some of the options that we've talked about today? And then the other thing to ponder is, what would you be doing if you didn't have a big house to maintain or worry about? So maybe your house is where you think you want to live, but there's still a lot of pieces outside. We didn't even talk about the outside stuff. There's always people you can hire for lawn care and snow blowing and all that. But maybe it's a lot of deferred maintenance you have going on, a roof, a paint job, something that's really big. So again, if you could imagine yourself maybe in a different situation, would a lot of that worry go away by maybe living in another forever home? So just, again, something to think about, to consider as we age, all the things that we have to worry about.
Great. So let's give these folks a big round of applause. And
big round.
thank you so much for coming. They're going to stick around. We'll be back here again next month, March 12th.
Yep.
And the topic is going to be technology for seniors. And we have a great panel as well. So again, I ask you all, bring one friend. Just one friend. You can bring one. Then we'll fill the room.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.